Welcome, everyone. And I would just like to introduce you to our panel here. We have people from several different roles in deaf and hard of hearing. Up on your upper left is John Stoll, an audiologist. Next to him is Gretchen Schumann, consultant. Right beneath them is Jennifer Paget, who is another consultant. To Jennifer's right is Kelly Touchtone, who is a social worker and a former sign language interpreter. Kelly was at the last second here. I had really wanted Kelly to be part of this just from her experience and expertise in deaf and hard of hearing. But we've had a terrible time trying to connect Laura up through a more traditional kind of interpreter online. So Kelly has agreed to sit in for that right now. So thank you very much, Kelly. On the very bottom of your screen is Laura Sanchez. And Laura, we have all known, it's very near and dear to all of us. Known Laura since she was a little kid. Laura is one of the graduates from our deaf and hard of hearing program. Laura currently is, Laura, you're going to be a junior now, right?
Yep, junior.
Yep, she is a junior now at Gallaudet University, which is one of the prime universities for students that are deaf and hard of hearing. We are all very, very proud of Laura, and we're just delighted to have her along with us. So what I'd like to do is just throw out some questions for the group. Our students are going to be able to read about or see different types of technology for people that are deaf or hard of hearing. But I would like to get a little bit of your experience on those kinds of assistive devices that a student that is deaf or hard of hearing might use in the classroom, and just your experiences about actually implementing that. So who would like to start? John, you want to get us going?
Okay. Hi, everybody. Well, the equipment that we put in the classrooms really does depend on the student, not so much on the building or the teacher. Those are all secondary to the needs of the student. But if we were to start with a light or what we call a mild type hearing loss, where kids can hear but might not hear all the sounds, we might advocate for what we call a sound field system. The ones we're using right now are wireless. They're fairly portable. The ones we fit, like even 10 years ago, had wires and miles of wires and speakers and lots of problems and things that broke. And the newer ones basically use a lot of Bluetooth connections between microphone and the receiver. And it almost looks like a little TV you put in the classroom. And it not only helps the kids with the slight hearing losses, it helps kids with attention deficit. It helps kids that might have a slight middle ear problem that day. At any given time, 15 to 20% of kids in most elementary classrooms have some kind of cold or stuffiness or allergy concerns. It basically helps everyone in the classroom. If they have a more significant hearing loss, we switch to what we call an individual FM, which again is a teacher wearing a microphone around their neck or clipped to their collar, and it runs to a small speaker or a small transmitter. The most common right now is called a Roger pen. It looks like a magic marker. It looks like this. Yeah, something similar to that, only it's silver or black, and it sends the signal directly to their hearing aids. So there's no delay between the teacher's mouth and the hearing aid, and there's no obstruction of the noise in the classroom or the distance between the teacher and the student. It delivers a very efficient signal, And we really like those. They're beautiful systems. The real concern that schools have right now, especially in this time period, is money. They cost a lot of money. But we always said that money never is, we'll find a way to get them to our students if they need them. And I know Laura used to wear one when she was very young. We had FM system. You remember, Laura?
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah, I liked the FM. It helped me to like pay attention to what was going on. It helped me connect right with the teacher, and I wouldn't be so distracted by what was going on around me.
Yeah. And I guess I'll ask either the teacher consultants, either Gretchen or Jennifer, about the concerns they have. They actually have to deal with the teachers on a weekly basis. I think that's most of the concern, is getting the system down and understanding how to operate it correctly and troubleshoot it.
Yeah, well, for me, with my particular students who are using them, just, you know, because they're connected to their personal hearing aids, it depends on whether they bring their personal hearing aids to school or not. So that becomes an issue if you have a student who is not a good hearing aid user and does not remember to bring them back and forth from home to school and then back home. So we've had that happen where we have to make phone calls right away to parents to get their hearing aids back to school because the system is connected together. We need all the pieces. And also we've also had students who have lost the hearing aid, and unfortunately if they lose their personal hearing aid, they then lose the connection for the FM system. So there's another part of the FM system that you have to replace, not just the hearing aid. So that becomes difficult.
I would say too, to piggyback on what Gretchen said, like there's a huge buy-in for teachers. If our students see that teachers are resistant at all or uncomfortable about wearing the FM or the microphone or whatever it is that we're asking them to use for the student, even though it's really beneficial, if they see any hesitation, like you don't want to wear it or you're uncomfortable, whatever, they will immediately shut down. And then things like, I don't bring them to school, you know, because they don't feel comfortable. And so a big part of our job is making sure everyone's comfortable and showing that it's a huge benefit, but only if everything is working and, you know, everybody is doing their part.
Okay, thank you. Jennifer, you've had some experience with the CART system, haven't you?
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. CART is, it's closed captioning, but it's real-time captioning. So it's where there's a person who is either in the classroom or remotely even now that is listening to a teacher and pretty much typing everything that's being said. And that is being displayed on a screen, like a computer screen for a student so they can read along and understand the lecture as it's going on. It's, you know, obviously you're listening and then typing, so it's a tiny bit behind, but it's still, then you have a backup to what's going on in the classroom, plus then you have a transcript at the end so the student can review it and go back and look and see what they missed.
Okay.
And that's honestly, CART is more accurate because the person is listening and fixing things as they go along, versus like some of our captioning, like you can do on Zoom, that you just turn on and, you know, there's a lot of, not a lot, but there's errors that come across. And so my students during this whole virtual time have enjoyed catching the errors. And they, you know, and then they get distracted because they're like, oh, that said, you know, whatever. But
Mm-hmm. Yeah, none of that stuff is perfect.
No, and it's not going to be, but, you know, and neither is when we're listening. You know, we always mishear what's going on. So that is a skill in itself. And there's a lot of, skills that we actually teach, like auditory closure and how to improve your skills in that area. So it's all part of it.
You've had some, Kelly, you've had some experience with, say, using like videoed assignments, or I remember you guys were doing some things with iPads and signing assignments for the students, or signing lectures for the students. How did that work out for them?
I liked that because, again, like Jennifer was saying, you could go back and watch things again if you missed them.
Mm-hmm. I would imagine, though, that the biggest problem that you guys had was the amount of time that it took to produce those things.
Yes. And if the schedule like changed for some reason, then now our work isn't going to match up with what the teacher talked about that day.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Laura, what about you? What kind of technology have you used in the classroom? First of all, let's start out, and what we were trying to connect Laura through is the Sorensen system. Can you tell us a little bit about how that works?
I'm sorry, everybody just disappeared for me.
All right, basically she's saying you call a number and you call into Sorensen, and then one of their operators will pick up and answer, and you can have a conversation with a hearing person or another deaf person, whatever, and that person will be a communicator for you. You can talk, and then the other person will be signing.
Okay. Can Laura see us now?
Now I can see Laura big, so that really will help me.
Okay. Okay. Laura, do you use any other kinds of technology in the classroom?
Other types of technology, do you mean like how do I communicate with?
Sure. Or when you're at Gallaudet, how, you know, a really a simple piece of technology may be if somebody's at your door, at your dorm room door, how do they let you know they're there, that when you can't hear them knock?
Because I have a light inside, so when people push the doorbell, there'll be a light that flashes in my room.
Okay, what about getting up in the morning? What about an alarm for you?
I use my vibrate, and it helps it move. I have a little clock that vibrates my bed, and that helps me wake up.
Okay. What about it in the classroom? Is there any kind of technology that you use, you know, that your teachers use or that you use while you're in the classroom?
It varies. Most of the time, my teachers require for example, like a teacher might have technology in the classroom, like on the board. But my classroom, we're all in a like a semicircle. We're not in rows, so we can all see each other, and then we can all see the teacher when they're lecturing. The teacher might find videos with like closed captioning and stuff like that, or sometimes the teacher can't talk, they're deaf themselves, so then they'll find things with closed captioning, or just a variety of different things like that.
Okay. Thank you. Are there other things?
I would say for a typical classroom with hearing and deaf students, you would have like smart boards are huge. And teachers who have like the projector cameras using with their smart boards is the best, honestly, because they can still be facing the classroom. Our students can still see their faces, but they are writing things out and it's being displayed in big behind them. What else? Gretchen, can you think of other things that might be?
Wasn't the one where they were writing on something like a smart board with a pen and the pen recorded everything? And then, explain
pen.
that one.
The smart pen or whatever?
The smart
Yeah,
pen.
we don't have those.
No, but that's
But,
still
but you can
something.
do that with an iPad too, where they're writing on the iPad and it's displaying on the smart board, but then it's also like they can capture that and save a picture of it and then send it, or or just put it on a website or send it to the kid later. I've had students use Compass Notes too, where they have their that app on their iPad and it records the listening part, the auditory part, and people will be taking notes and can like even log the auditory pieces with and so then there's captions too, but with the notes that they're taking or that someone's taking for them, they can kind of connect those pieces, so if they have to go back and study, they have this auditory piece that they can re-listen to and then see the captions and the notes. So but it's like chronologically, it's a smart way of taking notes, I guess. Compass Notes.
Just for my students here too, if you will see that some of my videos that I have posted online will be captioned, and Columbus State has a captioning service where I submit my videos ahead of time and they will caption them. Unfortunately, trying to get everything up and running right now with captioning, it's just a really big backlog. So there are some things right now that don't, but eventually it will be so that all of the videos will be captioned for our students.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
sounds
that's
great.
cool.
Well, I know, so on Zoom, we should be able to have the captionings running. And I even looked up how to do that. And because we often in our schools are using Google Hangouts, and it's right there. You just click on it and it goes. Zoom's a little trickier. And what I found today with my Zoom is that it's not the most recent version of it. Therefore, it doesn't have that capability. Yeah, at the beginning of COVID, they had said Zoom needed a third-party captioner. And that was some of the difficulty that I know. I mean, I don't know if Gretchen ran into that, but when I had students that were learning virtually at home and their teachers were preferring to use Zoom, I was struggling because they couldn't have the captions that they
I wasn't
could.
even aware that Zoom had captioning capabilities.
Well, yes, apparently they do. Except when I could see it today, I could click on it or I wanted to click on it, I could found it where it was, and it said this version
I have a question.
support blah blah blah. I was like, of course it doesn't.
Zoom does not have captioning. They don't work. You can get like they can have a third party person who can hear, and they type, and then they translate it into closed captions. That's what Zoom needs to add, but they don't have the closed captions with the person who's working. That like they can't be typing and participating at the meeting at the same time.
Well, I imagine everything is in the process of being developed like that, and it'll probably be coming.
Well, and along with CART, there's CPrint as well, and that's another real-time captioning, but those are people who are like in a Zoom meeting where they're remote working, so that provides some accessibility for our friends who are more rural. And so like in our communities, we have that issue. There's just not enough trained CART people or things of that nature. So if we can use CPrint and have it be a distance and bring them in digitally, then that tends to work. So there are some options, but those are usually options at the college level. At the high school, middle school, high school level, they rely a lot on note takers and copies of notes and our FM systems.
Okay. All right, folks. Well, I want to thank you all. This has been some good information. I think we should probably wrap it up at this point. Anybody have any last minute thoughts or things you want to add?
I'd like to add one thing quick, Jim, is we talked a lot about hearing aids, but they might also see kids with cochlear implants and other types of devices that these FMs and technology can work with too. And even kids without hearing aids or without hearing loss that have what we call auditory process or attention, there's devices being made right now that you can put on. It looks like a hearing aid, but it's not classified as a hearing aid. And another thing that's sort of on the downside is that some of these devices are starting to become over the counter. They're starting to be not needed, a doctor's thing, and you have to be very careful if you want to go out and try to buy one, because you could buy them at Costco or at Walmart even, buy these hearing devices, but unless you have some way to verify what you're getting, you might pay a lot of money for not a good thing. But for kids in the classroom, the ones that they're going to get are going to probably come through an audiologist or an educational audiologist, and hopefully they're the appropriate things. But you got to be it's almost like buying reading glasses now versus going to the optometrist, just going down and buying them off the rack. Hearing aids are starting to get like that. So the FM systems are still more of a fine-tuned thing for certain hearing aids, but FMs are going from kids with no hearing loss all the way to severe to profound hearing loss with cochlear implants.
All right. Very good. All right. Once again, everyone, thank you very much for participating in this.